Thanks for what you do with your podcast and all the rest. You're doing a great job. Hope everybody keeps tuning in. You get a lot of good info, a lot of insights, understandings of how to get strong, how to stay strong, how to use your strength.
You do a great job, dude. You make things better than they are in real life, I think.
If you don't follow Massenomics, y'all do it. Social media, website, everything.
Massenomics.
Yeah. Welcome to Massenomics, the world's strongest podcast. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Massenomics. Make sure you go visit Massenomics.com. There you'll find the rest of our powerful content. While you're there, check out our store and buy yourself some of that sweet Massenomics gear.
I have goosebumps.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Sound quality is tremendous.
This is after our normal intro music.
Double intro.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the Massenomics Podcast.
Welcome to this week's episode of the 1996-97 Chicago Bulls.
We're going real hard on the intro
Here
here.
for quite the ride.
Fun fact, guys, that was actually the way that we announced my entire wedding party when we came into the reception at
That's
my
good.
wedding.
I wish you would have told me that a week ago.
Well, I wasn't about to cough up some elite fucking ideas to you, Tommy. Speaking of that,
And also Dan Bell was a ball boy for the Chicago Bulls. We've said it before, but it's worth saying again.
yeah.
Never forget.
So Tommy, the newly hitched Thomas.
That is I.
Listen, I looked at it on writing. Now that your now wife had changed her last name, even though you know goddamn well she did not legally go through the process yet.
Oh, she has.
Does she really?
Yeah, she got on it ASAP.
Has it been 3 days?
3, yeah.
But I saw it
Sunday,
like
Monday,
2 days
Tuesday,
ago.
Wednesday. Well, what on
3
Facebook or?
work days.
Yeah.
Well, you can change it on Facebook anytime.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like, so is it
you can do
done?
that.
She has
Does
a
Mark
driver's license
Zuckerberg
now?
know about that?
Does she have? Is the name changed?
She has all of her new bank cards are in the mail.
So she has a driver's license with your last
She
name.
has the driver's license with my
Jeez,
last
I
name.
swear to God,
she
it
had
took-
that as of yesterday.
It took us like go to the fucking DMV, and they're like, "Get the fuck out of here! You got to go here." And then you had to go to the federal building, and then you got to go here. And you need mail, but mail with this and that, and everyone's got to show up. And
Yeah, she was on it.
Jesus. But anyway, your last name is obviously pronounced DeFay, but it looks so much better if she would pronounce it Leah DeFia.
That's what everyone says.
And I think you just need to go with
but
it
her
now.
middle name is Lachey, so it's Leah Lachey DeFay. So it does have a certain
still a
ring
rhyme
to
in there.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
you're right.
So what were the high notes of the...
High notes of the wedding.
We got our drink on.
It started on Friday night, the rehearsal dinner. That was my aunt and
Kept
uncle.
it really low-key.
Yeah, my aunt and uncle have a pretty nice backyard, and we hosted like 45-ish, 50 people there.
A really nice backyard.
Yeah, I mean, like legit pool and everything, like diving board. Like it was nice. And one of my buddies works at a brewery in Wisconsin, and this is a little shout out to Mobcraft Brewery. They do a really cool thing. They crowdsource their beers. So every month, you can go on their website, submit ideas for a beer, and
Homeless people make it and they bring it in.
basically, that you can submit ideas for a
they
beer.
crowdsource the idea.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get
yeah.
it. Okay.
The idea, and then they let
Bring
the
in
crowd.
loose beer.
Yeah, they let the crowd vote on the beer, so the winning beer gets made like the next month or however long it takes to actually produce that beer.
Yeah.
Well, another thing that they do is none of their cans are actually labeled. They're blank cans, and then they have like a labeling machine. So, whatever you got to do, you know. But what they started doing is offering like custom labels. So like when people have a special occasion, like why not? Why not do your own custom label? So it was pretty cool that we had the DeFay draft.
Yeah, they were really cool.
And it was an IPA, like 6.5%, which most people around here, that's not a thing they normally do. So when that I think that after
starts to catch up to.
I think like after a night of drinking those, it caught up to a lot of people. But
I even had to have a few of those just because I liked the can.
I
was like, I don't care what it tastes like.
I can say I saw my dad have his first IPA ever. Yeah. Like he choked it down. I'm sure he didn't enjoy any bit of it, but he did it for the love of the game.
There's a thing I learned, which I'm certain it doesn't apply to this then because it's a special event. But I know if you're going to, because it was kind of just given, you know what I mean? Yep. But if you're going to sell a beer, it's in your best interest to not have the label, have your cans not labeled, because the way it is with the ATF is when you make a new beer, especially if you're rolling out a fucking new beer based on online polls all the time, you then have to submit your label to the ATF for approval before you can fucking print the label on the beer and sell it.
Doesn't surprise me.
The more you know.
Yeah. But I guess with the rest of the wedding, though, the big concern for us was it was an outdoor ceremony.
Can we go back to the rehearsal dinner?
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk about this because I think this happens at a lot of weddings. So the rehearsal dinner, you're with a crowd of people who every time they get together, they're like, all right, we're going to get fucking stupid drunk tonight, right?
Yeah.
And that people got to have their shit together the next day, kind of.
Yep.
And so was there this thing where everybody is kind of trying, but not that hard?
I feel like the night started pretty chill and cautious, and I would say for the most part it ended that way. I know there was one groomsman specifically that maybe didn't have the best night, but as far as I know, the reviews that I had the next day were hungover, but nothing out of the ordinary.
Nothing unusual for a Saturday.
Yeah.
I like that.
So yeah, dodged a bullet on that one.
Nothing that a few pre-wedding beers couldn't fix.
I know at mine it was like, we'll hang out. We were all at a hotel, so we had a rehearsal and we go back to the hotel. We're literally at the place where we sleep. So you go to bed anytime. It's just a boring hotel bar. Blackout fucking drunk till 2 in the morning, and up in the morning everybody's dying.
Yeah.
So you did all right.
Yeah, came out okay.
That's good. Good bunch you got there. Really responsible.
But the next day then, the big concern was weather. It was an outdoor ceremony. And in Aberdeen, you just have to assume when you do an outdoor event, you're going to get screwed over in some way between rain, wind, or snow or something.
Heat.
Yeah. So we managed to escape okay. Like the biggest concern was it was like 90 degrees, which is the best problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the nice thing with it
much better than raining.
Yeah.
was because if the only issue was heat, the ceremony was pretty expedient.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Was it I
25
don't even
minutes?
know if it was 15.
It was probably 15 or something.
I think the crowd was in it
Yeah.
for 20.
Yeah. The crowd was probably by the time they sat down and did their whole thing.
But that's
we kept
it's respectful of people's time in the heat, respectful of their time.
Yep.
That's how you do a wedding.
said people. I know
long
what you're going
weddings
through.
are not necessary.
If you guys, if you're listening, if you have
They're
a
a little
wedding,
out of style these days.
nobody cares about what your vows are. Nobody cares about anything. The ceremony has to happen, and so people are gonna be glad that you had one. But do what Tommy did.
Well,
make it quick.
And what I'd say, nobody cares about the stuff that's not specifically related to you getting married. Like yours was good because it was just like about you two getting married.
Yeah.
Now
like the
we're
stuff
gonna-
that's not about that.
Yep.
It's like, what? Like,
Yeah.
can we get on
Now
with
we're
the
gonna-
wedding
Can we
part?
get back on
Like,
task here?
Yeah.
Keep the show
And on
moving.
the fourth day, Moses came down from the mountains.
And I'm like,
Wait a
Well,
minute,
we kind of already have heard that part before. This is a wedding.
Yeah, this is about me.
yeah.
But yeah, we kept it moving, and then the party bus happened. We called in a little favor. One of the local favorite bars in town is called the Zoo, and we
opened up shop
We got
early.
a favor for them to open up shop just for us because they're not going to get business for the first 2 or 3 hours they're open anyways because it's not a bar you go until like late. And they opened it up for us, and we tore it up for a good 20 minutes. It was
I would say
Tanner bought
Tanner bought
30
I bought the
shots?
round of, or I bought the bar a round of shots. Like that's one of the few times I would ever do that.
I was already on the dance floor, and
Yeah.
the beauty of this place is there's a shot bar on the dance floor, and I look at Tanner like on the bar, seeing him doing like the pointer thing of like trying to count everyone, and I'm
then
like,
you're like,
ooh, something's going on over
Don't
here.
do it, Tanner. Did Tanner send you guys all invoices? the next
Well,
day?
yeah, we got
okay,
it.
you had two.
They were itemized, yeah.
$6.
There was also tax on each one of these. And I'm going to charge you a tax for facilitating the thing.
Yeah, it was-
we walked out of there, and I remember you said something about how much fun that was, and I was like, that was really fun. If only when you went to the bar, it could only be 30 of your good friends.
Everyone's review is,
Like,
oh, it's amazing how fun a bar is when it's just 30 of your best friends and everyone's ready to party. Like,
And then the bartenders are on point because
it was like the bartender was. You'd tell them anything to do, they were right there for you. You'd say, "Can I hear this song?" Run across the bar to put a song on. Like they were doing it all. So yeah, it was awesome.
They want to hear Jake one.
there was some like you guys were doing some handstand push-ups.
So this is probably back about
It's CrossFit Games weekend.
yeah, it was honor CrossFit Games. To give people some context, if you go back about 6 years, most people are familiar with Diplo now, the DJ. About 6 years ago, one of his first breakthrough songs, you could say, was "Express Yourself." And if you don't know what that song is, I would recommend right now you pause this, hop over to YouTube, and watch the music video for that. And it kind of almost turned into a meme. Is that in the video? There's these girls that they go up to a wall. They kind of go into a handstand position with their legs up on the wall and just do some upside down twerking. Mm-hmm. And maybe in my younger years, I might have made a habit of that with some of my friends. And so we relived that. Yeah, I mean, we had a line of like 10 guys, 12 guys doing that. So it was
pretty entertaining.
Funny story. I actually literally 2 hours ago, in teaching the gymnastics segment of our CrossFit class, was doing just that.
Yeah.
Not handstand push-ups. Like, listen, you can stop the progression right here.
Yeah, so it's a classic. It's a classic. And from there, we hopped back on the party bus, got to the ceremony. There was some speeches. I was a little on edge. Like Ryan.
Flying Ryan was the best man.
The shining point for you guys that listen to us here, Ryan's speech was, he touched on some really, really, really good stuff, really deep emotions. But it was one of the main things he wanted to give Tommy's credibility or credit for his great creativity.
Yeah.
Like when he ripped off the Miller Lite logo
and made a shirt.
And then when he went and after that ripped off the Miller High Life logo and made a shirt. And then wait till you guys see the next one. So Tommy's creativity knows no bounds.
There is no limits to it.
He said that this is like right in the middle of the speech. He went through that, and what was so hilarious about his speech were his pauses.
That's what
his
everyone kept
long,
saying.
extended pauses where
because it's like, and then he would go to his phone and you're like, Ryan, I know you don't need to know this next, but he was just doing it.
Yeah.
As like a comfort thing
Yeah.
or something. Yeah. So,
But it was all good. Everyone got housed and had a good time.
Yeah, that's pretty much the summary for it.
There was a lot of huge dudes there.
There was a lot of big guys. Yeah, you cannot deny that fact.
there was.
Was that the first full-on Massenomics wedding?
It's funny
Was
thing.
your wedding was Massenomics?
Massenomics was discussed at your wedding. I do remember.
It was a thing.
Yep. Yes,
It
it
wasn't
was.
quite a thing.
It was a. I think it was a. It
just
was
a Facebook
just
page?
it was becoming a gym in the process of it.
Gotcha.
Later
Okay,
that
yeah,
year.
yeah.
It became a gym 2 months
Yeah, I
later.
was gonna say just a couple months later.
Yes,
so
2 months
it
from
wasn't
that.
the thing we know.
No,
as
no,
today.
it's not like what it is right now. It was like I got all my
Mary's
groomsmen
like,
a
well, now that we're
Massenomics
married,
scarf
Yeah.
and stuff like
She
that.
said, now that we're married, I want a baby. And he's like, well, let's start with a gym. Why don't I get you a gym first?
Yes. But funny thing, the month of August 2018,
Ooh, it's a
there
Massenomics.
are 4 Massenomics gym members that are getting married.
And there's a strongman competition, so
It's a big month.
It is the month of
but
Mass.
10% of our gym membership
Get married
is getting
in
married
one
in August of 2018.
2 of them are getting married to each other.
Me,
Yes.
Ryan, Leon,
And they're dudes.
Who's the other one? Who's the last?
Larry and Nick. No. No, Jake.
Oh yeah. That's right. Yep.
He's kind of a transplant
Satellite
member,
member.
but still, yeah. But yeah, there is a couple that's getting married from the gym even this month, so
Yeah.
it's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Massenomics.
Larry, Nick.
Just makes the world go round.
So, on that note, speaking of the world,
Oh yeah,
check this segue, guys.
Oh.
West Side versus the world.
yeah,
Tanner, you want to steer this ship for
yeah.
us?
Wasn't necessarily going to read all of this, but I do want to maybe read a couple parts just so I don't bastardize
Maybe
it anymore.
just in case some people don't have any clue what we're talking about.
Yeah. The backstory is West Side versus the World is a documentary that has been slated to come out for several months now. People have been anticipating
and been
it
in the
forever.
works for a couple years.
Yeah, since like 14 or 15, I think he's even when he started. Michael Fahey is the
Director.
the director, I guess, and he's the main mostly in charge of everything that has to do with the movie. And there's been some hot button stuff about the what's the site that he used that you raise money with, and is it like
Patreon?
Yeah, Patreon or what? I think maybe it was Patreon or whatever.
Or he might have done a Kickstarter. I think,
maybe it was Kickstarter.
Yeah,
it was
I
Kickstarter.
do remember. Seeing that part, and I think part of that was like most Kickstarter projects. You can do for $5. You can chip in, get this for $20. You'll get a Blu-ray when it comes out. For $40, you might get a Blu-ray and your name in the credits or something.
Right.
And there's different tiers to that.
The problem with that has been that all those Kickstarter people haven't gotten anything, and it's been a lot longer than what everyone was expecting.
Yep.
But he's been pretty quiet about what's going on. Like everyone wants to know what's going on. Anytime you post anything, everyone's like, "What the hell's going on? We haven't gotten anything yet."
Yeah, and so I haven't kept up on this. So that's all I know is that like the few times I'll kind of actually take the effort to look into it, I'll see on Instagram, he'll have a post and just everything. Where's my movie? Where's my movie? Want my money? And then he'll have like one comment in there. Sorry, things going on behind the scenes, can't discuss.
Right.
And that's all I'm aware of right now.
Right. And the other thing to note is they did have a special viewing of it in 3 different locations. It was like
one at the Arnold even?
Yes, one was that was the first, and then there was one in Utah and one in South Carolina or something. And I think it was like of a 95% finished product, like those maybe not fully complete. But that kind of pissed those people off too, because
Rightfully
people
so.
have gotten to seen it. Or
Now they know
gotten to see
they know
it.
there's a movie.
Yeah.
But why can't I just have it?
Right, the people that gave some money to get there. But so this is the press release that he put out concerning West Side versus the World, and he says a number of sudden events have delayed the release of the film West Side versus the World after its limited debut in Columbus, Ohio, Salt Lake City, Utah, Columbia, South Carolina, and Perth, Australia. First, as detailed in this court case, United States Department of Justice versus. This would be his partner's name, and I'm not exactly sure how you say this. I think it's Carvalho. Would be his partner. Pending in the United States District Court for the Southern District of Ohio. Mr. Carlos Carvalho was arrested on February 26, 2018, while transporting narcotics between Colorado and Ohio. Mr. Carvalho spent the following 6 weeks in federal custody. He has now pled guilty to the charge of money laundering, for which he awaits sentencing. I'll maybe skip ahead here. Mr. Carvalho emptied bank accounts belonging to Walking Rambo Productions. Walking Rambo Production is the production company working on West Side versus the World. That company is 50% owned by Michael Fahey and 50% owned by
This other guy.
this guy. He was not authorized to withdraw those funds. The funds taken by him included those allocated to produce items for the Kickstarter rewards promised by the World Rambo Productions. See if there's anything else noteworthy. That's the basics of it, So that's what's going on.
So that was probably why he couldn't really talk about stuff, because it
Right.
was probably an active investigation.
And it's still going on, so he's still limited of what he can say. I'm guessing this was gone through by his legal.
You would assume.
That's about it. He says a little bit more about this other guy's background, and it. Maybe I'll just read the paragraph about this guy.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Carlos worked on the film as a cameraman, photographer, and director. He was at times sought to create the impression that he is the award-winning cinematographer of the same name who was tragically killed on location in Africa. So someone else by that name is apparently an award-winning, cinematographer,
Yeah.
And he was kind of
He's like, yeah, let's go.
trying to do that. He's obviously not the same person. He was recently suggested in social media that he has been employed by WRP for the past 2 years in the capacity of security specialist. His last contribution on the development of West Side versus the World occurred during April 2016, and he is not and has never been employed. So it kind of sounds like a liar and not a great guy.
Yeah.
Not and never been employed by who?
WRP.
Oh, by WRP. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like all he ever did was he was a cameraman sometimes.
Yeah.
Throughout the documentary is
Yeah.
what it sounds like. So that's why, because
There's
he
no
took
money.
all the money.
Ouch.
Yeah. So to follow up with that, I asked Michael if, I let him know we were going to talk about this a little bit and asked him if there's just anything beyond that he wanted to say. And he said, nothing to add on my end other than everyone will still get their stuff. And he apologized for the delays, and he wants to thank everybody who has shown patience through this whole ordeal. He just wanted to make a documentary and let people see it. I didn't sign up for FBI drama. And then he said, if you want, there's plenty of info out there on the case that you could look up, but he's not going to say a lot more on that right now. Most important part here, he said, and of course, you guys will still get a screener to review once all the bullshit has passed. Yeah.
That is the key
Can we
takeaway.
get that digitally? Because I might be out of the country at that time.
Yeah. Well, I imagine it will be, won't it, or won't it?
I don't know. Maybe
even
they'll
know.
send us a DVD.
I haven't gotten a lot of screeners.
I don't know how that works.
Lately, I haven't.
I didn't know what screener meant for sure the first time he said
I
that.
think it's a VHS.
Just the hardest thing to pirate in this day and age.
Yeah, that would be it too. Like if you want to make some shit that you cannot get ripped off, VHS that
Where'd
shit.
that? Who has that VCR?
Fuck.
I can't watch it, let alone copy it.
So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I would say for sure, like you can't get into something like that one expecting to get rich, right? So if you're this guy who now you're like you really do have to expect that you're going to do that thing just to create a documentary.
Oh, yeah.
And hope
It's
that
like
you don't
a
lose your
labor
ass.
of love.
Yeah.
And
And
you
at
hope
the end of the day,
and you hope that people see it.
yeah.
And I that is the thing. Like you only did this for the sake of it existing, so people can enjoy it, and then it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like now, literally, the one thing you wanted to do, it's probably ready to go, and you can't even do it. That would fucking really, really, really suck.
And it's not like he
And
stands to
everyone,
make a lot of money.
and then
probably.
everyone
No,
hates
never-
you.
yeah,
Then
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then you're the one that's got to be out in front of it eating all the shit because the other guy can just be the bad guy.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah,
But he's got to be there and be like, no, I'm really sorry. That sucks. That's a really shitty
that does.
way for that to play
I
out.
wonder if it's building more like interest in the movie though. At this
it
point, where
could
it's-
generate. I mean, you would think by the time it comes out, it's generated some additional media for
Yeah.
it.
Or if it just ends up being like this cursed film.
that could
You know, where
definitely
it's
be
like,
it
it's
too.
like there was 37 deaths in the making of this. It becomes like the drummer from Spinal Tap.
Yeah, I hope. I'm guessing it probably will be, but now I hope it's good because I really want to see it. You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's and like if you saw it and it wasn't, you'd be like, that's what
Fuck.
this is all about.
Yeah.
You know, but no, I bet it. I'm optimistic that it will be.
Yeah.
There's really no indication of how long it's going to be, though. You know, he's not saying like, and I'm sure he's not going to be putting out any dates at this point in time.
You pretty much can't.
Yeah,
Thank God he never did before.
yeah,
You know.
Oh, yeah.
Because even then, with there being like a nebulous, like, oh, it's coming, and then it doesn't come, like, at least it's not like, you said February.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah.
though I'm sure there were some promises made somewhere to people that paid.
There must have been through the Kickstarter because that's where I see people getting the most upset. One other thing I was going to ask, as long as I have it up here, is we put out the last of the survey questions.
That was the last one.
Yeah, the so far survey
literally
1.0.
have nothing to ever look forward to again.
It's pretty much your wedding's over. The survey's results are over.
You mean, wait a minute, you mean that people arguing that we didn't put people on a list
that we didn't
make,
put
that we
people
just
on.
asked people to say
Yeah.
names, and then they're mad
Under
at us.
criteria that they may or may not have interpreted correctly.
It's surprising how many people don't read the little bit of text
Anything.
that is there.
They're like, yeah, yes, go on, though.
but we're jumping ahead.
Like
of
we
you
could
here.
get into we can get into
What
the comments a
all of
little
these
bit,
are,
but
but-
just about the results. Were you surprised at all by the results? I guess so. The question here was, who is the best male power lifter today?
I
Who
was
is the
surprised.
best raw male power lifter today? Not specified by country.
Actually, we should
that
just
a
read. We should just read the caption
Yeah.
in its entirety.
Yeah.
We surveyed 50 of the best U.S. raw powerlifters and asked them who they think the best raw male powerlifter is today. Who do you all think? What do you all think of the results? I feel like that was pretty clear who the survey pool was and what they were asked to respond
And
to.
it was relatively concise. Like, and if you want more detailed, there's a bullet point in.
There's more fine print in the graphic if you need to do that.
But there seemed to be a lot of more confusion than I anticipated that there would be.
The funniest comment I got.
So and so should be here.
The funniest comment I got a lot is, since when is Yuri Belkin U.S.?
Right.
Like, it doesn't say anything about the best. It doesn't
We
say.
surveyed U.S.
Yes,
powerlifters.
and that's what I tried to tell people. I was like, well, we surveyed U.S. powerlifters because I don't believe Yuri speaks great English and isn't gonna.
Yeah, and
you know,
it'd probably get lost in translation.
We know Andrei Milanichev doesn't speak any English,
we
so
tried.
we couldn't ask him.
Right. But so the results were, and they were only what some of the people suggesting, other people that they feel like were snubbed off the list. What you have to remember, these people aren't giving us a list of their top 3 or their top 5.
they
They're
picked
just saying
one.
the only reason there's a list here is because people picked different ones. Like they just asked to pick the one best one in the world.
Which means 43% of those people
And you
picked,
said today. You said today.
Yes,
you
today.
didn't say of all
Not of all
time.
time.
No, we had that. That was a prior one.
Yeah,
but
43%
yes, just today.
of those people said that Yuri Belkin is the best raw male powerlifter
Yep.
today.
And you kind of, in a way, have to agree with them. Like,
Yeah.
you could make the argument for Milanichev, who was tied in second.
Yep.
But also, Milanichev hasn't been doing a lot of meets lately, so he's kind
Yeah,
of...
so lately it's been a rough
So, yeah, like,
year or
it's,
two. And
there's
so,
not as much of him to see right now.
And the other thing to keep in mind, some of the people surveyed did respond back with a question before an answer, and they said, what do you mean by the best power lifter? Do you mean just by who has the best total, who has the best Wilks, who do I like the best? And I said, however you interpret the word best today.
Because so many people will say, well, this Wilks is this.
Yeah.
Or
And
total
for some people, that
And
answer
I
is
want
their favorite.
to know what the
Yes.
best of the 50, what the 50 best there are.
Yeah,
or
who
50
they
top
think
ones.
is the
I want
best.
to know who they think is the best, not best by someone else's criteria.
Right,
Who do
by
you think
theirs.
is the best? I personally, I was a little surprised to see Yuri's numbers
That much higher
of a
than
disparity.
so he was 43%. Then there was 2 tied at second with each 17%. So a big drop off there, and that was Andrei Milanichev and Ray Williams.
Yeah. Larry Wheels tied with 9% with him and others.
Yeah.
And then 5% picked Eric Lillibridge. Now, the thing that I thought was interesting is there's a lot of people like, well, Ray Williams, how many of these other people are drug tested? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like, was not a part of the criteria.
Right.
It
Yeah,
was
it
just
was
human
not-
beings lifting weights.
Yes. Exactly.
It is what it is.
And some of the people surveyed probably took that into account and picked Ray Williams for that reason. Some of them probably didn't take that into account, but it was just to see who they thought was the best. But
What about Vlad? What
Yeah.
about this? What about Brad Castleberry? What about Brandon Allen? What about Josh Morris and Dan Green? What about...
so take that. Those are good examples. Take Brandon Allen and Dan Green. We would all agree they are two of some of the best powerlifters in the world. You know, probably put, I don't know how long of a list but if you had a list of the top 10,
Between the
I
two
imagine
of
they're
them, they've
both
got the best hair. For sure.
hair beard combos. But this isn't a ranking of the top 10 best.
This
This
is
is
a
just
survey.
people. How many people are going to say that Brandon Allen is the number 1 best powerlifter in the world? You know, because if you just look at super heavyweights, does he have the, you know, does he total more than Ray or Milanichev? Or, you know, I can see where you look at Yuri Belkin because then there's a different weight class. Or
Yeah.
like I'm saying, if you think super heavyweights are the best, then you have to look at who's the very best in that.
But my favorite...
and get your one vote.
yeah,
My
right.
favorite thing about this dynamic, though, is that, like, it's like, hey, you asked 50 people for what they thought, just objectively, like, or just subjectively, like, what do you feel about this based upon your credibility within the sport? And now I want you, Massenomics, to defend
Yes.
these other people's opinion. And it's like, I don't fucking know. We asked the question. Here was the results. like if we could just make up
report
our
in the
own,
news.
It's like, guys, we've done this before where we make up our own lists, and y'all are still mad at us. So we asked somebody else,
That was the
make the
perk
list.
of this is like,
and it's like we
didn't
can
do
be
it.
like, I don't know, yell at all of them.
Are you at all the really best powerlifters in the world because they're the ones that made that
and they
picked
all
these.
total more than you. So
Yes.
fucking, I don't know what you think. You know who didn't jump our shit? asking if why Brandon Allen wasn't on this list or Dan Green. Was Brandon Allen or Dan Green?
Or so Dan Bell wasn't an answer. He's another person that could have been there.
Oh,
He liked
easily.
the post.
Yeah.
He didn't. Eric Lillibridge liked it. He didn't say, "Hey, how do you put Larry Wheels above me?"
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's got I'm sure he could argue that, and he looks at that, and he probably thinks that. But I think even receiving votes at all,
matter.
yeah, right.
Like that of the 50 top, 5% of them were like, you are the one.
Yeah.
I would think that would be honor enough. But
Yeah.
it doesn't work for people that don't do things.
Right. But overall, comprehensive. It's a pretty good. Those the 5 guys that got the most votes.
Yeah, I
It'd
don't
be
think
hard
there's
to,
any surprise with any of those.
No.
The biggest surprise would just be like, oh, Yuri got a pretty big piece, but
Yeah.
I was surprised at how much
big
of a
he
piece
got.
Fury got.
Yeah.
But I only, in my head, and this is just me maybe following too casually, I just only think of him as a big deadlifter. I guess
Yeah.
I don't see.
I think he benches close
think
to 6.
Yeah,
and-
so I see his deadlift is so transcendently
Yeah.
strong that like you can almost just ignore some things that are right up there.
Right.
And that's probably the things that the top lifters in the world are not missing.
Yep.
They're like, no, dude's a bad motherfucker.
Yep.
And the
yeah,
numbers
like
don't
just for
lie.
comparison, like him and Kaylor Willem, their deadlifts are pretty comparable, but I think Yuri's total is a couple 100 pounds more, just because he's so much better across the other lists.
Right. And it is interesting too. I never released and not going to release the names of the people that we did survey, because then you could start to look and be like, hey, you got
got an
surveyed
axe
and
to
you didn't
grind.
vote for me,
Yeah.
because I can tell no one voted.
Why did you survey this guy?
Yeah, right. But if you looked at it, there were non-USA people that voted for Ray Williams, and there were USAPL people that voted for across, so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't think people were being homers or anything like that. It's more the other people that are concerned about that than those guys themselves.
I never see a lot of the big USAPL homers. I never see a lot of the USAPL people who are really good, or the IPF people who are like, man, fuck all these other federations.
Right.
Yeah,
It's not like that. It's some just dude who kind of lifts.
No, like if we talk to Dan Bell and Ray Williams, they both talk about how much they
The
like
others
each
are-
other.
Oh, yeah.
and how awesome that guy is.
I think
And-
Dan Bell said it before.
Yeah, he
He's
did.
like, Ray Williams is a fucking bad dude.
yeah,
Like,
right.
and
they're not
so-
like, well, he's in the USAPL, like,
And you know how they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we've never, you never hear that from anyone at the top.
No, exactly. Dan Green, he's maybe someone I'm surprised didn't get a vote. Maybe if you ask me, but what
I think that
the
ties
caveat
the
is
today
today.
thing.
When was his last meet?
Right.
He hasn't done a full meet in
Exactly.
2 years, maybe
Yes.
more.
So I think that it's the question is
What's
today.
the best team in the NBA right now this year?
It's not.
It's not the 1996 Chicago Bulls. I don't fucking know what to tell you. Be like, well, I mean, yeah, but LeBron didn't have to. Jordan didn't have to pass the ball to all his fucking role players, hit big shots for him. Like, dude, I just asked a question about today. I don't fucking know.
right.
Some people just always have to take it back to something argumentative.
Yeah.
But I do like who commented on that. I liked it a lot. I think it was Derek Gray. He commented on there like in all caps. Can anyone fucking read anymore? Like under all the comments, he's like. And you said usually people are too busy trying to find something wrong.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the honest to God truth. Yeah. So we post a lot of stuff that's got a lot of information on it. So it's easy to like have one thing that's maybe not perfectly correct or something like that, and people will find it. Like it doesn't matter what it is.
Very matter of factly,
they will find it. Like
asterisk.
Yeah.
It's THEIR.
And they might have like the only official record of it too. Like it's not public domain. Like the stuff's out there.
So like, I saw this guy do it in his garage one time. You're wrong.
So that's a good point, actually, something like that. And I'm not I'm glad someone pointed this out. But so the last lifting legend
like it is almost impressive, like how some people do know this stuff.
Yeah, the last lifting legend we did was Mark Henry.
Yep.
And the bullet I put in there was highest combined super total in history, 3,219 pounds. That is not correct. I looked it up before I did it. I didn't purposely
You didn't just make it up.
Yeah, I wasn't like putting in the wrong information. I saw it on Wikipedia for one. Like, not, of course, everyone says that's the biggest at one point in time. And I even looked up Misha Kokliav's, and on the site I found, at one point in time he was right under Mark Henry. Later on, like a few years later, he outdid him by a few pounds.
Yeah.
And like in the site that I looked up, it just had his older one and still had
Gotcha.
Henry above him. But a couple people spotted that right away. You know, it's like, how does everyone know all these obscure?
Yeah.
Like people are fans of the
Not
super
even
total.
a thing that's
Yeah.
actually kept track
Right.
of.
And people were on it like that. But so Mark Henry has the second best super total of all time.
The number's right.
Yeah.
The ranking is wrong.
Henry's powerlifting total was higher. Misha's
Weightlifting total.
weightlifting total was higher. And I think he ended up being about 30 pounds better overall.
Okay.
But Mark Henry is pretty impressive when you look
It
at his.
is when you see those, especially
Mark Henry in the world of strength
Yeah.
is like, he's like one of the dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as we give him shit for being a bad announcer.
Yeah, because he's not good at that.
Well,
still
in the world of
is-
announcers, he's not one
he
of the
still
dudes.
is a bad announcer.
Yeah.
But like he's the dude in like he really is. Like I remember when I first started even lifting, I don't know where I was looking through things and I was seeing Mark Henry's numbers and I was just like, what in the fuck?
Yeah.
Like this shit doesn't even look real. And growing up I only ever remembered him as the professional wrestler.
That's all I ever knew.
And one who wasn't that good at that either. You know, but I liked
He
him
was the
then.
champ in
He was the
2011.
champ once. But but that was like his numbers astonished me when I
Yeah.
first started lifting. I couldn't even believe that. I was like, that's fucking real.
Yeah.
And another fun one is when you Google the slam dunk contest. Was it the celebrity slam dunk contest or what did they do?
I don't know what
somewhere on the internet years ago, and they're like, "Oh yeah, check out Mark Henry in a slam dunk contest." I'm like, "That's the dumbest thing." Like, what is the point of it? That's so stupid. And then the first year he was in it, I don't know if he got a clean dunk off, but the first time he actually palmed the ball and just jumped up and hung onto the rim, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like,
How did this happen? But
and
then
then-
if you look at it, you're like, well, he does squat.
yeah.
950
And I think the
pounds,
next year it was either his first or second try. He went up there and dunked the ball right away.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, yeah, he probably weighs 350, 380 doing it,
Yeah.
but he did it.
A true lifting legend.
Yeah, that's the dude. Yeah, having him on that list amongst all, like, he definitely is probably among the top half of all the people we'll have on that list.
Yeah, just because of the how high he excelled at how many different things.
Yeah.
It's really impressive. And how he did it later. So there was some guys in the like 70s when World's Strongest Man was starting that had that Olympic weightlifting background, and then World's Strongest Man won it once or twice. But Mark Henry didn't win World's Strongest Man. He won the Arnold, but still, it's 1A, 1B
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But he did it like in the 90s or the 2000s when like that pool of strongman's a lot more developed than it was in 1975, I think, when it's not Lou Ferrigno you're competing against, where it's
Yeah.
actually like
Yeah, it's not bodybuilders. You're
Right.
Like, oh, you got muscle. Get in,
right,
get in the party.
right.
Speaking of totals, CrossFit Games was this weekend.
What's your 5-word review of it, Tyler? Tanner has the counter out right now.
Mostly not interesting to watch.
Okay.
And here's
Is that different than your review of most CrossFit games?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually. I like things about it. There's some things about it that they did to make it not. I do think those things made it a good test for fitness, like the diversity of what fitness can be, right? Like all over the place. But what it made was some shit that was not that cool to watch, like a marathon row. 3 hours.
Whoa,
of
really?
People on rowing, 42,000 meters.
So the camera was just pointing on people sitting on rowers for
There was 80 people sitting in a stadium on a rower for fucking 4 hours.
That's not primetime TV.
Yeah, and so like if you're like trying to go to this fucking sports bar and be like, hey, CrossFit Games, will you put that on? And everybody else is gonna look at you like,
why are you watching
well, this is really fucking stupid.
yeah.
And I actually watched most of it. I had about half of it on during the gym, and then there was another class going on after I was done coaching. So I went next door to the bar and just drank beer and watched the rest.
Would they cut to the screen so you
Some
could
of the
see how
screen
how
stuff,
far
and then
how far they
kind of
are?
had everything linked together. So they had these fake little.
Oh, you could see how far people,
Yeah,
like
but,
who was winning
but
the
more
race.
like a Nintendo
Yeah,
graphic.
and it'd be a chart moving at like
Very
the
slow.
speed of nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's kind of how that was. So that I thought was I think is a good test when you compare it to the other things. Like, I mean, run a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a fucking that's an extreme end of the fitness
Yeah,
things you can
for
test.
sure.
So when you talk about the diversity of what fitness can be, that's testing one extreme domain. They did, the CrossFit Total, which is basically 1 rep max back squat, deadlift, and strict press overhead, which is that basically what the Ripito meets were? Were they no bench? Wasn't that a strict
Yeah, that
press?
was it. Yeah.
So how did they do the strict press? Was it a strict press or
It was
like
strict.
how did they handle that?
Knees could not move at all.
So they
There
would
could be
just
no-
there was a judge right there and they'd say
Yeah, and they also couldn't really dip. There was a couple that like Camille LeBlanc Bazinet got away with fucking I think they pulled the rep from her, but she literally, because you only got 3 attempts, so you couldn't try one and then try again. So she basically pressed one, just kind of launched it up to her eyeballs, and then pulled it down and bounced it back up and got it. And we're like, what the fuck is this? I was like, whatever that is ain't strict.
Yeah. So how did they have a certain? Because in a powerlifting meet, you rotate through everyone to do your 3 attempts.
No.
Did they just have a certain amount of
And so
time
this
to?
is- the time thing is the thing we'll never.
Yeah.
When we look at these numbers that we're never gonna have, we will not know what that context is like. You and I, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they had 4 minutes to take 3 attempts on the back squat,
It's not a lot of time.
and they had to load their
for,
own
for
weights.
max effort and
They had to
loading
load
your own
their own
weights.
weights. And then they moved on to the strict press. And they had immediately once that 4 minutes was up, then they could leave that platform, go to the other platform,
So
and
was
spend
someone
4 minutes.
load weights for they'd have to load it themselves or I would
That would suck.
I would warm up as much as possible and plan on taking
1, maybe 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't be taking 3
for sure
attempts.
on the squat.
Yeah.
The deadlift's the last one I'd burn out. That'd be whatever.
Yeah, I
and-
wouldn't plan on taking 3 attempts on anything. If I'd start
sure.
closer to my I'd start at a second probably.
You're not going in with
I
that
agree.
breezy opener.
Yeah,
Yeah, because of the time.
yeah.
And anything can go wrong.
So was this? So collectively, was there 12 minutes then that
12
this all
minutes
happened?
total. So you literally would
That's-
walk to the other platform, put your weight on the bar then, and then go.
That was
So
12
they'd be
minutes
like
to
running
max
from one
out.
side of the bar to put a plate on, running to the other side and put a plate on.
They'd burn a minute, do
Yeah.
a rep. And it was really, really, really interesting to see. And I was actually talking with Julian Pinot about this yesterday or the day before after having seen it. There was other events at the CrossFit Games too with which they did a lot of strongman stuff. There was yokes and some sled drags and some other things. On the yokes, the women at the CrossFit Games were using basically the same yoke weight that they used in the middleweight women's nationals last year, which is really impressive.
Yeah,
and the
it is.
men were getting buried by some weights that was still heavy, but they struggled with it way more than the women.
What did the men have on theirs?
Don't even remember.
Over
yeah,
500?
6 something.
Okay.
So still a big
Yeah,
weight.
it is.
When they were squatting, were very many of them low bar squatting, or were they?
There
all
was
high
only a couple that were low, a lot of high bar squats. So here's some of the numbers. Now,
Yeah, I want to hear these totals on
now
this.
the ratio, this is the most interesting thing that I talked to Julian about. The women in CrossFit continue to get stronger every year, and the numbers that we're seeing are what in the fuck? It gets the general, say the top 10 strength numbers continue to go up every year.
Mm-hmm.
The men are literally either the same or going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Literally some of the same men are less capable at strength than they were. So women and men are responding very differently to this type of training, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Now, here's some of the women's numbers. Just say the total number isn't going to be that relevant because it's the press.
Yeah,
so it
right,
doesn't matter. But let's
right.
go to just the back squat, right? The women, 4 women tied at 330 pounds. Most of those women weigh between 130 and 160 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big squat.
Yeah, it is.
Those.
And that's not an exclusive part of their training, like
No.
powerlifting. It's just one of the extra movements they do.
Right.
29 of the 40 women were over 300 pounds in the back squat, which is pretty impressive. The men, only one squat at 500 pounds.
Really?
Matt Fraser was 485. It was second place. Scott Panchik, like one of the lightest dudes out there, had squatted 500.
I was going to
that
guess there
surprises
was
me a
some
little.
even close to 600.
I would have guessed several.
Basically,
okay, did they do something before this event, or was this?
Yeah, they did lots of shit. So they did, but they only did the bike event, which I'll talk about why I think that was stupid later. Ask me about that. But so they only did the bike event and maybe like one other. Oh, and 30. They did a 30 ring muscle ups for time, which I think will mostly still just affect your shoulder strength.
Overhead press.
But being able, now you got to remember the body type to be able to do 30 ring muscle ups in less than 3 minutes is going to limit.
How much?
Like
you
that's
can
going to
do.
filter out the person who could squat 700 pounds.
Right.
So there is something about that, but it didn't seem to filter out the strong as fuck women.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is interesting. Like all of the men, I mean, Josh Bridges only squatted 315.
What?
That seems.
What?
There was
that just
four
seems
men.
like
There was 4 men at the
I
CrossFit
can't imagine
Games.
that.
You have to you want to think like there was some strategy involved to only hitting 315.
I hope.
That doesn't make any sense.
There was 4 men who did not even squat 400. More than half of the field, about 3/4 of the field was under 450.
See, I just would have assumed if you would have asked me like what was the bare minimum squatted, I would have said everyone hit 405.
Yeah,
like
for
that's
sure.
what I would have
Yeah.
said.
Yeah, and that's just not the case. And basically, if you take 455 and under, so anyone who squatted more than 455, there was only 6 people
Wow.
in the men. That's not that much. I mean, frankly, I have
That's.
a cup. I have a
I'm surprised that's not higher. You know. I don't know.
so that's where we're trying to figure. Like, I think that training bias. They're explosive. Well, a lot of them still could clean and jerk fucking like 350.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, so that's pretty impressive. But for some reason, like just that static strength is not present. And it does have something to do, I think, with, body mass, because they're just not that big of guys, but seeming to filter out.
That is just surprising
Yeah.
though. Like I'm just having a hard time.
What were the overhead presses like? Were they?
So-
I mean, are those good then? Because that's close. I mean, they
No,
do.
that's even
Like,
worse.
are most of them over
Some-
200?
Some of the, yes, actually,
Okay.
that was impressive until they weren't. The women were really impressive again, though, on the overhead press. Because a strict press for women is fucking all upper body.
Yeah.
You know. But there was 4 women over 150. One hit, Carrie Pierce hit 155. I mean, that's like a body weight strict press.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of them were near body weight. More than half of the women's field was over 130. 3/4 of the field was over 125. 7/8 of the field was over 120. That's significant
good,
overhead
yeah.
weight for women.
Yeah.
The men, 240 strict was the number 1. And then
Which I think that's based from the squat to the, I went to even guess 240 based on
Yeah.
how the squats went.
And then about half were over 200. Between 200 and 225. There's only one higher than 225.
What was
and
the
that 240.
lowest?
There was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 men that were at 170.
I thought for a second you
My
were going to say
thing,
like
though-
135
my
or
thing, though-
something.
The thing about it though is I think one of them is like including like Rasmus Anderson, who's like a big guy. He's like 6'1", 6'2", like 170. I'm sorry, but you're an adult man who competes in fit. 170 is not it.
Who's like a professional athlete.
170 is not the number for sure. So that part was interesting, especially again considering how explosive they can be and what they can get overhead. Deadlifts, the women,
And this is CrossFit, so no sumo allowed.
no sumo allowed. 1, 2, 3.
I remember
4,
last
5,
year there
6,
was
7.
in that pyramid. Some of them went over 400. Like
Yeah, but that was with like 30
that was doing
deadlifts
yeah,
before that.
right.
But this one there was 1, 2, 3, 7, 8 women over 400 pounds.
Nice.
That's
Tia
good.
Toomey and Brooke Wells were both at 415. Those are big. And
That's
now,
good,
now more than half of the field was over 350.
That's
And
good.
All
Yeah, it is.
all but 2 were over 305 pounds. That's a lot of weight for those women.
Yeah.
That's all. Basically, all of them are more than double body weight.
Yep.
The men, Patrick Vellner had the top one with 595.
Well, that's good.
That's a good deadlift.
Yeah.
And for being 12 minutes in now,
Yeah.
and this is your third event
That's a
you've
good
tried to
de-
max out,
Yeah.
that's super
you start
respectable.
looking at the
Yeah.
ratio, though, right? 595 on the deadlift. His squat, 455.
He had to be one of the better guys in the whole total then, I would think, right?
Yeah, I think he won it.
Okay.
I think he won it. Let me find the top. Total, he got second by 5 pounds. But so
So he said
Like how many were
595?
over 500? Most of them, or like half of them, or
half,
Okay.
a little more than half was over 500. Only though, only 5 was over 550.
Well, okay.
So
What was the lowest there?
435. Josh Bridges again. He's a small dude.
Yeah,
though.
he's the
like
smallest one,
145.
yeah, yeah.
Oh.
He's smaller than a lot of the women.
That's-
Better mustache
Wow.
though than most of the women. But so that's
That 595 deadlift is probably the most impressive one out of all the
that was a
men's
big
numbers.
one, and he's not a
so-
huge dude. So
Yeah.
like Sam Dancer wasn't there this year. I think he'd have pulled 6.5 for sure. But yeah, but so the deadlift wasn't bad considering the size of the guys.
I'm surprised most.
The squat, I
yeah, I'm
don't get
surprised
because
most
as
of
much as they Olympic
Right,
That's-
that's
yeah,
exactly right.
yeah.
Like I know it's not Olympic lifting, but that's a core of like their training for a lot of them. And like for Olympic lifters, the squat is one of the
Yeah, you see videos all the time on
Yeah.
Instagram of Olympic lifter doing whatever for reps. And
Right.
it's super impressive.
Yeah, I think
But they are not Olympic lifters.
That's true. That's
yeah, and so they did what did they do here? 1,200 meters per lap, 10 laps. So they biked they did like an 8 or 9 mile bike course.
So like what type of bike? Like we're talking like Tour de France style bike here.
I don't know. They call it crit bikes. I don't know what the fucking deal was, but it was. Here's my thing. This is one of my complaints about the deal is they made it. They did it last year. They did like a cyclocross event where what they did was it was like this big long fucking course, and they split it up into heats, and like if your chain fell off or something mechanically broke on your bike,
Yeah.
like you had to go all the way back to the other deal to get a different bike or get it fixed or something. So this is where you start introducing potential mechanical problems to a sport that's only supposed to measure fitness, like
Yeah.
truly just output. And I think they start fucking up with this. There was one person whose chain fell off, and Patrick Vellner, who got second in the games, second or third, second overall. But he got like 29th or 30th in that fucking event because like his fucking chain just fell off. It was a mechanical thing. Noah Olson's pedal just broke. And so he's like had to get off at a spot somewhere and get switched bikes, and it's like, come on. Like
Yeah.
so there's a world full of people out there that will tell you that NASCAR is a sport, whatever. But like so why don't they introduce driving cars into the CrossFit?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, maybe because there's too much other things that go into it mechanically that maybe isn't the fucking point of testing just fitness.
Yeah.
So while I don't like some of it to be so much static equipment thing like the rower, at least with the rower, there's just one very proven, reliable piece. There's no other variables.
like did any of those break?
No, but the
Yeah.
last time, like in 2000, I don't remember how long ago it was, but it was a long time ago. They did back in like Jason Kalipa's era. He's the one I remember, but they did a half marathon row, which was up to that point the most boring thing that had ever happened. and they did that, and I think Camille's monitor, it was either her or someone else, monitor just cut out, which means I'm sorry that you've been rowing for an hour and 45 minutes and you've been working really hard, but now you get last place because there's nothing we can do.
That would
Right? Like
yeah.
that's
Seems
where you
like-
start introducing too much
Yeah.
shit. It's like just do the doing and limit your risk to shit like that.
Yeah.
Because that's some bullshit. when
because
that
if you
happens.
train for that all year and that's like the one thing you do,
fucking
and it's
mad.
it's because the equipment.
and like you have a
working.
shot at some legit prize
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, well,
And
unfortunately,
prize money and probably
fortunately back then there wasn't
Yeah.
dick for money
Yeah.
available, but
But nowadays though, I mean like something
Yeah.
like that could
And who knows what besides just the prize money? Like if you go from if you were gonna get first and you end up getting fourth, Like, imagine all the other money that you just lost out on because of that.
So the events though were this way. It was the fucking bike thing, dumb, 30 muscle ups for time, which is just like a burner gymnastics burner sprint. There's people finished that in under 2 minutes. I think quite a few. CrossFit Total, which was a cool event. I liked that event. It was cool to watch. Cool to see. The results were interesting. How it was split up. It's always tempting for us to be like, well, I'd have had the top squat, bench, and deadlift. Fuck all them guys.
Couldn't have done any of the other
Couldn't
stuff.
have done a single muscle up and would have definitely got hurt on the bicycle.
Yeah.
So, and I would have literally quit the CrossFit Games as soon as they announced the marathon row.
Yeah.
So they rested Thursday. Friday was a workout where they had to like drag a dude, 2 rope climbs, run an obstacle course, 2 rope climbs, and drag a dude. One of my favorite events that they do is they'll do like speed ladders, either clean and jerks or snatches or something. They did a clean and jerk speed ladder where basically they go in heats and you go as far as you get. So they started with like, 155 for women, 155, 160, 165, 170, 175. And for time, you have to clean and jerk it once, move forward to the next one and go. If you get bogged down or you don't finish in time, then you don't move on. But the women, last one went all the way up. The top weight at the end was 225-pound clean and jerks for the women. And lots of them finished. And one of them, a couple of them who finished it would still off the floor, power clean and just power jerk. Didn't even have to like do the whole thing. Just boom, boom, 225 like that. And I know lots of grown men who cannot do that.
Yeah.
And the men's weight all the way up to 345. So, like, that's some fucking big dog weight for guys that are squatting 450.
Yeah.
That are back squatting 450 and strict pressing 200 pounds.
Yeah, and just the workload of how
put-
all those
You can
reps
tell how
add up.
far ahead they are on
To-
a lift
to-
like that.
Yeah, to fucking push jerk or fucking split jerk 345 when you can only strict press at the most 225, 200, 225.
Or squat 450.
Yeah,
like
it's
your whole
crazy.
Yeah.
Like here's an interesting dynamic. I can strict press about 315. I can push jerk kind of about 380. That is a very low percentage difference when a lot of these guys probably are getting close to what I can fucking push jerk and can strict press 100 some pounds less than me.
Yeah.
So that's a level of explosiveness and speed that I do not possess. That's crazy. But the women, again, were far more impressive in that. They just decisively boom, 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 and it was nuts. There was a kind of a cool workout of handstand push-ups and huge double kettlebell deadlifts. I think there were 200-pound kettlebells in each hand, 5, 8, and 13, and they'd have to overhead lunge some weight. Then there was a swim paddle run event where they had to paddle like on a paddle board. That was... it's like somewhere else, so it's not that interesting to watch. It's off you go. Have fun.
Yeah.
Then there was a cool event that they did where they did not tell the people how many reps or cows that they had to do ahead of time. They claim the games is to get you ready for the unknown and unknowable, but so often it's like, okay, well, we know there's going to be snatches, and we know there's going to be running, and there's going to be swimming somewhere, and then there's going to be handstand push-ups. The cool thing about this was you went up to like the ski erg, or you went to start doing your burpees to bar or your overhead squat or your single leg squats, and you didn't know how many cows or reps you had to do.
So when did you find out?
They told you when you were done.
Oh.
Which fucking fucks those people up.
how do you
Because those
pace,
people are so good at producing 85% output and maintaining it forever.
Yeah.
Because they don't redline. They don't do that because then it's over. But they are very tuned up and they can just go. So they're going, they have to start skiing. It's like, do I just go do I just breakneck pace this thing? Because what if it's
Any
20
sport,
cows?
that's a really interesting concept.
What if
of
it's
not knowing
200
what you're going
cows?
to?
Yeah.
What if you don't know? And so I really, really fucking like that event, and I hope they do something like that lots of times in the future because that is very cool. And then I hope they stretch it out because a lot of these things were still moderate reps. They were all middle of the road, 35, 30, 45, 40. And then at the end, they had to do 25 box jump where he jumped on the box and go to the other side. But the men's height was 42 inches. Most of those men are about 42 inches tall. And then they had to pull a tumbler, 400-pound tumbler, 110 foot. And that's what we saw with the split ink straps. pulled over their shoulder. It was basically kind of like a truck drag with a little weird sand dynamic with it. A snatch bar muscle up workout, another snatch chest to bar pull up workout, 300-meter run, biking, sled pulls, handstand walk event, yoke carries after pegboards and thrusters, like lots of yoke carries, add weight, yoke carries. So lots of strongman stuff. Only 3 or 4 events had barbells in it at all, which is always interesting when people throw the whole, you don't do enough fucking barbell work in your CrossFit channel. I was like, well, you don't do enough yoke carries, deadlifts, fucking dragging, like rowing, squatting, pressing, all that stuff. You don't ride bikes often enough, apparently. But, so that, and all in all, it was cool. I thought it was a good balance of the things. Some of them, though, were just not meant to be spectator friendly, either in person or on TV, which I guess if you want to make like the test of fitness, it's not about the test of the most watchable fitness. But God damn it, like it should be watchable. Because otherwise you're only doing it for 80 people.
Right.
And that's not a good business model.
Did Matt Fraser win?
Matt Fraser won. Tia Toomey won. So they've won the last 2 years.
Was his lead?
Yeah, he could have not even done a single rep the last.
Has he won like 3 in a row now?
3 in a row, and second 2 years before that. The 2 years before that in a row. So.
Were they weren't close to him again?
No, I mean Vellner was like 140 points back or something like that, and it would have been different, I suppose. Things went on had Vellner not had the bike meltdown in the first event. But all in all, the way like Armin Hammer put it, he said Matt Fraser is going to continue to win the CrossFit Games until he chooses to no longer do so. And that's kind of the way it is. When he's done, he'll be done. But like nobody's fucking touching him. Every finish was like. 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th place, 2nd place, 4th place, 5th place. Like, you can't be that close to the top of everything, be that well-rounded, and not win a thing that's like that.
Right.
So, it wasn't a lot of huge takeaways for me on the women's side. It was kind of how everybody expected it to be. I mean, if you had to put money, you'd have put money on Fraser and Toomey winning, and that's how it played out. But I liked it. It was a cool test. I would like to see the CrossFit total. I would just like to see that as a measuring stick every year. Would be so cool.
I think you'd probably see people start to push that more then.
Well, I would think at least that was the first time they tested, like really like the full dynamic of top end strength for them. And I would like to see that type of thing happen more often because they don't always do it. It's always something very technical when they do that, like the Olympic lifts. And you can see they're much better at being technical and precise with heavyweights than they are at just doing heavyweights. So, yeah, it was cool. Stay tuned. I would recommend watching the ESPN version, the 90-minute condensed version, not the 5-day-long version.
Right.
That's much more palatable. They'll find a way to make a marathon row worth watching. But I think that has us about topped out for our time today.
I like it.
CrossFitted the shit out of that ending. Do we have anything else to cover, guys?
Don't think so.
I don't think so.
The next episode will be the final pre-Strongman episode.
Yep. Gonna be
with a huge announcement.
Twist ending,
coming
I
up.
would say.
There is a twist ending coming up, but that one
Night Shyamalan movie up in here.
You don't even know.
He was dead the whole time.
Kind of. So, but thanks a lot for listening, everybody. We will talk to you next week. Make sure you go to Massenomics.com. There you're going to find the store. You'll find Tanner's shirt there, Tommy's shirt there. That's all I got on.
We just got restocked of the shorts. We were out of every size, and we got the old expensive shorts, and people bought them.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
The market has spoken.
But they're restocked again.
Then make sure you like us on Facebook. Go to youtube.com/Massenomics. Subscribe to the page there. Go to Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review, and we will at some point read it on the air. Or if it's awful, we're just going to ridicule you behind your back. You know who you are. I'm Tyler. You can find me on Instagram at Tyler F. and Stone. That's Tyler EFF I N Stone. Tommy?
At Tomahawk_D.
Tanner?
The Massenomics Instagram account at Massenomics.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk
You
to
just
next week.
heard the
Stay
Massenomics
strong.
podcast.
See you.
With your ears. You're welcome. Check us out on Facebook, find us on Instagram at Massenomics, and make sure you visit Massenomics.com and buy some of that sweet Massenomics gear. From your friends at Massenomics Studio, home of the world's strongest podcast, stay strong.